This traffic stop was never supposed to be caught. No witnesses. No noise. No second chances. One quiet night, a police officer pulled over a black man who wasn't speeding, wasn't breaking the law, and wasn't resisting. The officer smiled, asked a few questions, then did something that happens more often than people want to believe. He planted drugs in the man's car. The officer was confident. Confident that no one would question him. Confident that the man wouldn't have power. Confident that this would be just another arrest forgotten by morning. But what the officer didn't know was that the man sitting in handcuffs wasn't just any driver. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't helpless. He wasn't who the officer thought he was. By the end of that night, careers would end, a department would panic, and a secret investigation would be exposed. All because of one simple traffic stop. And when the truth finally came out, everyone realized one terrifying fact. The officer stopped the wrong man. Stay with me, because this story changes everything. This traffic stop was never supposed to matter. No flashing sirens screaming for attention. No crowd watching. No cameras, at least. That's what the officer believed. Just a quiet road, late at night, and one man driving home, thinking only about rest. Marcus Hill's day had been long and exhausting. Meetings, paperwork, decisions that carried weight most people would never see. By the time he got behind the wheel, all he wanted was silence. The hum of the engine, the glow of streetlights passing overhead. A few peaceful minutes before home. He followed every rule. Speed steady. Seatbelt on. Turn signals used properly. Nothing about his driving stood out. And yet, in the rearview mirror, red and blue lights suddenly burst to life. Marcus's chest tightened, but he didn't panic. He slowed down, signaled, and pulled over smoothly to the side of the road. He had learned long ago that calm could be the difference between safety and danger. The officer approached slowly. His boots scraped against the asphalt. One hand hovered near his belt, the other tapping against his flashlight. His eyes moved over Marcus, not the car, not the license plate, but Marcus himself, as if he had already written the story in his head. License and registration, the officer said flatly. Marcus nodded and reached carefully, narrating his movements like he had been taught. No sudden gestures. No confusion. Just compliance. The officer glanced at the documents, but didn't study them for long. Instead, he leaned closer to the window, peering inside the car as if searching for something that wasn't there. Then came the question, "Mind if I take a look inside your vehicle?" The air shifted. Marcus paused, not out of defiance, but caution. He knew his rights. He also knew how easily a simple moment could spiral out of control. "I don't consent to a search, officer," he said calmly, respectfully. For a split second, the officer's expression hardened. The politeness vanished. The patience disappeared. The officer straightened up, took a step back, and his voice grew colder. "Step out of the vehicle." In that moment, Marcus felt it, the unmistakable sense that this stop had never been about a traffic violation. It had been about something else entirely. And whatever was about to happen next, it was already out of his control. The officer didn't argue with Marcus's refusal. He didn't explain. He didn't need to. Instead, he took 2 slow steps back from the car and raised his radio to his mouth. "I'm going to need backup," he said. "I'm detecting the odor of narcotics." Marcus felt his stomach drop. He knew that line. Everyone did. It was vague, impossible to prove. And once it was spoken, everything changed. The road that had been quiet moments earlier suddenly felt exposed, like a stage where Marcus had no script and no control. Within minutes, another patrol car arrived, headlights washing over the scene. The second officer didn't greet Marcus, didn't ask questions. He already knew the role he was there to play. "Step out of the vehicle," one of them ordered. Marcus complied immediately. His hand stayed visible. His movements were slow and deliberate. He wasn't resisting. He wasn't angry. But confusion and unease settled deep in his chest. "For safety," they said, snapping handcuffs around his wrists. Cold metal. Tight. Unforgiving. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, staring at his own car as if it belonged to someone else. Traffic passed by slowly, drivers glancing over before looking away. No one stopped. No one asked questions. While Marcus stood there, helpless, the officers began their search. One walked slowly around the vehicle, shining a flashlight through the windows. Another opened the passenger side door and leaned inside, blocking Marcus's view with his body. Time stretched. Then, in a motion so quick it almost felt unreal, the officer's hand slipped into his jacket pocket. A small plastic bag appeared and disappeared, dropped beneath the passenger seat. Moments later, the officer straightened up, his voice suddenly loud and triumphant. "Well, look what we have here." He held the bag up between two fingers. Drugs. The word echoed in Marcus's mind. His heart pounded. His mouth went dry. He knew the truth, but truth didn't seem to matter anymore. He had never seen that bag before, never touched it, never owned anything like it. But the officers didn't look surprised. They looked satisfied. In their minds, the story was already complete, or so they believed. Marcus was arrested on the spot. No debate, no benefit of the doubt. The handcuffs tightened, and he was guided toward the back of the patrol car like a decision had already been made long before that night. As the door closed behind him, the world grew quiet. Inside the car, Marcus didn't shout. He didn't plead. He didn't curse or threaten lawsuits. He simply took a slow breath and stared straight ahead. The officers joked quietly outside, confident, relaxed. To them, this was routine. Another stop, another arrest, another name that wouldn't matter by morning. Then Marcus spoke, softly, calmly. "You might want to check who you just arrested." The officers laughed. One shook his head. "Yeah, okay," he said, slamming the door shut. At the station, the mood stayed casual. Paperwork, booking forms, fingerprints, another case number added to the system, until the officer typed Marcus's information into the computer. The keyboard click stopped. The screen lagged. The officer frowned. The desk sergeant leaned over. "Read the screen once." Then again. The room changed. The laughter died. The casual tone vanished. A heavy silence settled in the air. The sergeant looked up at Marcus, then back at the screen, then back at Marcus again. "Sir, can you step forward?" Marcus did. That's when the truth hit them. Marcus Hill wasn't just a random civilian. He was the newly appointed FBI director. And not just that. He was operating undercover as part of a confidential investigation targeting racial profiling, illegal searches, and planted evidence within local departments. Every detail of his stop had been intentional. The unmarked car, the late-night drive, the quiet compliance, and every second of it had been recorded by devices the officers never noticed. The realization spread through the room like a shockwave. What they thought was an invisible crime had just become undeniable evidence. Panic doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like silence. Phones began ringing. Supervisors arrived faster than anyone expected. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. The officers who had walked in confidently now avoided eye contact. Orders were given quietly, but urgently. "Pull the footage. All of it. Now. Body cams. Dash cams. Audio logs. Everything." The room felt smaller as the videos played. There it was. The hesitation after Marcus refused consent. The claim of smelling drugs. The hand slipping into a pocket. The bag falling beneath the seat. Frame by frame. Clear as day. No excuses. No misunderstandings. No technicalities. The evidence spoke for itself. Marcus's cuffs were removed immediately. Apologies followed, nervous, rushed, hollow. Words that arrived far too late to matter. Marcus stood there calmly, watching the system expose itself. "This is exactly why I was sent here," he said. No anger. No shouting. Just truth. Internal Affairs launched a full investigation before the night was over. The officers involved were suspended without pay. Warrants were issued. Charges were prepared. Careers that took decades to build collapsed in a matter of hours. But Marcus knew this was bigger than them. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proof. The story didn't stay quiet. Within weeks, it exploded nationwide. News outlets ran the footage nonstop. Social media erupted. Protests filled the streets. People saw what many had been saying for years, but now it was undeniable. Marcus testified before Congress. He didn't exaggerate. He didn't dramatize. He simply showed the footage. If this can happen to me, he said, imagine how often it happens to people without power, protection, or a platform. The room was silent. New laws followed. Bodycam policies tightened. Independent oversight boards were created. Training programs were rewritten. Departments were audited. One traffic stop became a turning point, not because of who was stopped, but because the truth was finally impossible to ignore. It began with an officer who believed his actions would never matter. But this time, he stopped the wrong man. What you just heard wasn't just a story. It was a reminder that power can be abused, a reminder that the truth doesn't always surface unless someone is watching, and a reminder that one moment can expose an entire system. If this story shocked you, moved you, or made you think, hit the like button so more people can see stories like this. Subscribe to the channel for powerful, real-world stories that reveal hidden truths, unexpected justice, and moments that change lives forever. And comment below. Do you think this would have ended the same way if he wasn't who he was? Thanks for watching. Stay aware, stay human, and I'll see you in the next story. Clapperboard fire.